Remember the early days were wild. I want to know.
Yeah. So 2014 was when I got into this corporate job. 2011. 2014 was when I came to Belgium, and 2018 was when I started my first company in Belgium. So it was a time when I decided that I want to work on 3 different ideas.
Okay.
And 3 were not related to mobility, but then it was in blockchain and different things, and started building prototypes around it.
Yeah.
So one was blockchain, one was in news curation.
You were already doing blockchain back then?
I was trying to. So there was
Okay.
what I thought was that I would focus on 3 ideas and probably one would materialize.
Yeah.
Right. So one was blockchain, and another one was in news curation. So I built a prototype for that as well. I call it as of the day. So it's like news of the day or photo of the day and all that. So built a prototype around it. Had a team working on it as well. And then the third one was helping European companies outsource to different countries, right? And based on a bunch of cultural theories. So
Okay.
there are some cultural metrics that you can use for you to have efficient global shoring, so to say, right? So these are 3 ideas that I worked on, and then I said I'll keep 6 months for it. And finally, Mayton materialized.
Yeah.
So Mayton was the first company that I launched in Europe. So when working on Mayton, that's how I, met, Stefan de Hoos.
Exactly, yeah.
Who was my ex-colleague at the corporate job. And there was, we were at an event, and he came with a fancy device, a mobility device, a 2-wheel device, and it said Freel. And I don't know if you remember, then it was just a sticker.
Black text on white.
Yeah. And it was just a sticker on a e-12 scooter, right? So I was so fascinated by the form factor, and this is the first time I'm seeing a e-scooter in flesh, right? And I asked him about it, and he let me try it, and then he put me in touch with you. And that's when I started, reading more about what these e-scooters are and, the entire market, right? This was in 2018, I believe. And within Mayton, in the due course of doing business, I met Cedric. So that's my co-founder. And he was working on a company called Click on Bike, which he founded a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
so they were into bike sharing, and they were at a juncture where they were trying to see what to do next, right? And that's when I met him, and then we sat together and built e-motionlabs. So e-motionlabs is a company that took inspiration from what we built at Click and Bike, which is like building bikes and all that, but then the electronics part of it, the IoT. And then we said, hey, with an e-motionlabs, we could probably build this entire stack of electronics and the software stack around it. Not the fleet management system, but the device management system.
The communication modules then.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Communication module and the software stack around communication modules.
Exactly.
Right? And that's how I got into mobility. So, it was e-motionlabs and also seeing Freel for the first time. That's how I jumped into mobility.
I remember, so when Stefan put us in contact, the first time we met, it was at a coast station.
Yeah.
And one thing that was very striking after we talked is that you asked me how many scooters I was going to launch in the near future. And I was thinking about a few hundreds.
Yeah.
And then you said, no, you need to have like a few thousands, and I was just starting out. I was like, oh, that's a few thousands,
Absolutely.
That's something that really was very interesting to know.
It was very interesting because, we know about Tier, Voy, and Lime and all these guys, but then Freel was much earlier than many of these guys, right? In Brussels, when Freel launched, right, to corporates and all that, there was no Tier, there was no Dot, right?
Exactly.
And I strongly felt that maybe if you had a couple of thousand devices, put them in the streets, I think you would have this advantage of being much earlier to the market.
Yeah, if we had received good funding,
absolutely,
everything was possible. Actually, last night I saw a picture from back in the days with Freel. It was a picture of 6 people looking at an e-2 on the ground.
Yeah, another picture.
Yeah, you saw it on Twitter, right? And I couldn't believe that back then I was actually, doing demos and having people look at an e-2 scooter like it's like a revolutionary thing. And that was like back in 2018, it's very, very cool to look back on those days.
And I mean, like I said, I mean, E12 had the right form factor, even the weight. I think you guys did a good thing with the scooter selection, especially for
all the credits to Stefan, because Stefan,
mm-hmm.
he did the research and
okay, yeah, and it was also like new for everybody. I mean, we didn't have all these scooter craze then.
I mean,
right?
It was exciting when you try the scooter, right?
Yeah,
it was very,
absolutely.
and it's a good quality. The E12 was great quality back then.
Yeah.
I don't know where they went now, but
it's a very good personal scooter.
Yeah, it's one of the best. All right, so that's how you got into the micromobility industry, right?
That's how I got into micromobility, and like I said, one of the things about me is that if I get into a certain industry or a certain technology, I dive much deeper, right? And that's what I did with micromobility as well, right? And also, like, when you dive deeper, you learn more insights, and there's no point in you keeping those insights to yourself, right?
Yeah,
exactly. And the best thing that you can do is like share. Right?
Exactly.
And also at the start of all this micromobility ventures, I was nobody. I mean, nobody knew me, right?
But everybody was new, right?
Yeah,
like it was a great opportunity to really,
exactly.
have an impact. Yeah.
Exactly. And for you to succeed in any industry, you have to create a brand for yourself, right? And there's no better way to create a brand for yourself other than, sharing what you learn, right? And if you look at my Twitter feed or LinkedIn feed, it's all about my learnings, right? I mean, what I learn, I just put it out, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And whatever thought process that I have, I just put that out, right? So that many others can learn, right?
Yep.
And that's something that I also do when I meet people as well. It's not that I hold back what I know. Even if you meet me for an hour, I'll give you so much insights that I learned that it's much better to share
exactly
without any expectations than
there is no point in holding the knowledge for yourself, because, like you said, the true value is in learning and learning and learning, right?
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
You need to share the knowledge, and you just need to continue learning.
Exactly. And when you have a certain thesis or thought about something, when you share, people actually debate about it. They actually
and it can improve, right?
Exactly. So if you think about my thought process, say 2-3 years ago about micromobility and how it is right now, I don't think it would have matured without me sharing things out in Twitter, LinkedIn, or talking to people.
Yeah, I remember you were one of the first, or one of the early people who was consistently putting reports online, talking about the app data. I remember you were one of the early people, like, sharing the app data, discussing the app data, the usage. And you were doing it for free.
and it was my monthly kind of learning experience. So what I used to do is, like, at the end of every month, I think I used to block like 2 days or something to read through every comment that users put on these apps, right? Both on Apple and
I remember
and Google. Yeah. So I wrote a script to scrape all this data, and then I used to read each and every one and then classify it. It was basically a learning experience for me, right? And so when you know what users want, then you can also build better products, right? And then I thought, okay, fine, I'm learning more, so why not just put that out, right? So, and I'm pretty sure it did help a bunch of people to shape up, their services.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say, because people listened to you because you would say, okay, most accidents were because of this or that, and people saw it and then improved it. Otherwise, if nobody speaks about it,
absolutely,
they might not not do anything about it, right? So
yeah, and it's an advice to anybody starting companies: go to app stores, read those reviews. It's a treasure trove.
Because right? Those are the reviews that matter, right? Yeah. Those are your users, you're paying users. So
yeah. Positive feedback is good, but then what I also concentrate there is all the negative feedback that people give. Not to dwell in negativity, but then you can learn a lot and improve more, right?
Well, yeah, you usually improve faster through the negative comments, because you can improve what was negative, right?
But positive feedback is an affirmation, but then negative feedback is an opportunity for you to improve, right? So
I would not want to be in a place where I only have positive feedback, because that means that I'm probably not improving or innovating enough.
Absolutely.
Then the end is usually near.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, those reports helped me learn as well, and then helped a lot of other people as well, and also created kind of a conversation with a lot of people, right? And which was healthy and good.
Yeah, exactly. And what is very important for this industry is the collaborations between different companies, hardware, software. And I know you put me in contact with a lot of people in the early days, and you were really someone who could easily connect with an IoT provider, a software provider, or a hardware provider. And how come you were able to easily connect with, different types of business or industries?
Personally speaking, the way I work is that I connect dots. I'm very good in connecting dots, right? So if I talk to somebody and if I had a conversation with somebody else that was interesting, and if I feel that there could be synergies connecting these two people, I always do, right? I know that there are some people they charge a fee for connecting people, but then for me it's like if I find it interesting, I always connect people, right? So that's one thing. And then if it's in specifically about how from IoT perspective we could connect to people, I think the industry was so early on that everybody was seeking out to everybody else.
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
Like for example, scooter providers were seeking out to IoT and software providers, right? And operators were seeking out for every other services that were available, right? So I think it was pretty easy for us to connect within each other, because the seeking was mutual.
Yeah, and indeed, like you say, like the need was there, right?
Yeah.
Like if you want to provide like a sharing business, you need an IoT.
Absolutely.
You need hardware. You need software. So you need to work together in any ways, right? Yeah. So around 2018, so when we all started, that's when the scooters were coming from America, I guess, to Europe, and it was crazy. It was really like, I don't think I've ever seen anything like this before. The way it grew, the amount of money that went in. How did you look at it at those early days? Like,
I like when human beings experiment on new things, right? And it could end up in a failure, but then in many cases, these tiny experiments is what pushed humanity forward, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I was excited that Brussels was flooded with scooters, right? On one hand, right? Of course there was like a lot of mess and all the stuff. That's secondary, but then I was excited that there's a new way of moving around, which is like fun and exciting. That's just flooding.
Yeah,
right.
Actually, when I look back, I think a lot of companies started out in Brussels or using Brussels as a test. I remember Thiers, Dot.
There was Voy at that time. There was
exactly.
The company from Daimler collaboration.
Hive.
Hive was here. There was also a local player from Brussels. So everybody came to Brussels. I think it is also because Brussels is a bit of a easy city to approach, right? The city officials are probably a bit flexible. But then on the other hand, if you really want to take a bunch of cities and see which cities to go to, Brussels has, I think, about 2 million population overall. Berlin has 3.5 million. And if you look at the density, it's a bit higher than many other cities. Right?
Exactly.
And then if you also add in a factor of GDP per capita, Brussels is one of the highest. Right, so if you do this math, if you take a list of all the cities and do a math, Brussels will definitely be on the top, right? Okay. With London and Paris and Berlin, right? So I feel that maybe math led all these scooters to us as well, but
but still, most of them left Brussels after a while.
Yeah.
But now they are coming back. I think.
True.
All right, so let's get back to the early days. Let's keep it chronological. So I would like to know how you were able to build e-motionlab, because it ended up playing a big part in the industry in terms of the IoT. So you started in 2018 when you met Cedric, and I know